Morning, folks. Thank you for that introduction, David. I was warned about talking quickly. Anybody knows me, everything is done at high speed. So my apologies in advance if I go racing off, but I'll try and keep it at a certain pace. When David first asked me to present to IBIS, he failed to mention that I'd be getting the original graveyard slot. That used to be the one after lunch, but I've now established that second day at IBIS, first slot, 9 a.m, is truly a horrific experience, given the fact I've had to bear up to 12 customers of mine out here enjoying the nightlife from Montreux, which is luckily fairly limited. So my challenge from a distribution perspective is simply put a statistic that actually Paul yesterday kicked off with, saying there were 80,000 repairers a few years back in the United States, and now there are as little as 30,000. Well, the stats for the UK are even more harrowing. For my sins, a lifer in this industry. I started out at a global paint company, and then for 10 years, and I spent the last 20 years in distribution, owning JCA for the last 13 years. We've just actually gone to number one now in the UK body repair supply from number two last year, and we're pushing ahead with some plans to increase penetration into the UK market. But from that, the challenge is facing me is that there were 12,000 repairers 20 years ago, and there are now 3,000. A casualty rate of 75%, which is truly horrific. And if I do nothing else today, but I implore all the stakeholders in the industry to recognise that in some respects the model is actually broken, and it's important that we do embrace change and ensure that there is value left in it for all the stakeholders to take something from it to allow them to reinvest in some of the areas I'm going to cover off later on. This can't be just for the better of one organisation or one party. It really has to be for the better of everybody within that chain, and distribution and suppliers are no different. So I was asked to talk about providing solutions that meet the current and future needs of the body repair industry, and we've broken it down into four key segments. The first one is technical support. Probably for me this is the most important area. Key reason being is that the latest technologies being used in vehicles in terms of the steels and the new metals and regards to the electronics and so on have meant there's a real demand and real need for us to better provide products, processes and equipment that actually enable our repair customers to actually better repair those vehicles in a safe manner so they can put back on the road and driven safely by the vehicle owner. Now, in this instance, the kind of underpinning process is training. We at JCA have two of our own IMI-approved training centres, which is quite unique. In the UK, nobody else has two. But we are fully committed to training our end-user body repairers in making sure that they're fit and able to repair vehicles in the future going forward. The second area is service. And within service, this is talking about not only the deliveries and simply getting the product from A to B, making sure it's the right product, the right time, and at the right price. But it's also about other areas like e-commerce and providing a web platform so we can reduce the amount of paperwork flow between our respective businesses. But also that we can do things like provide invoices online, statements online, reduce the accounting functions and so on, and the interaction between the two companies on a paper level. But from this process, it allows us to create a benchmarking situation whereby we can look at key performance indicators, establish best-in-class performance, and target our body repairers to try and improve their performance to ultimately drive profitable growth. Because ultimately, if we're not doing things that drive profit, what are we doing them for? And finally, stock management. The one thing we know, if it gets measured, it gets done, is the old saying. And in our instance, we think that managing and control ultimately improves profitability. And that can be from not only the ordering of the product, but the usage of the product. And one thing that can highlight is areas of training needs that aren't just for the whole body shop operation, but could be quite specific to areas of the body shop or particular individuals based on usage and the like. The third area is marketing. So how do we get involved in marketing? Well, one of the areas simply might be organising a trip to IBIS for a few repairer customers to come and meet some of the other stakeholders in the industry. There's a bit of a moot point really in the UK about work provision and our involvement with work provision, it's ultimately a market that we found ourselves sort of drawn into. There are various approvals that are able to be secured by our repairer customers. It's a very approval-driven industry, and we've made sure that we've got a contribution to play in that particular area. We also get involved in web design and making sure that our customers are coming into the 21st century, and that's increasingly an important part of what we do. Promotion is another key element of promoting the body shops out to their client base, but also looking at new opportunities, and this is absolutely essential for us. The collision repair market in the UK now is about £4 billion. The one key factor we have seen, though, is the growth of the retail market, which is now up to about £600 million, and most tellingly, that's doubled in the last 2 years. So it's about providing a framework that allows our body repairer customers to go and grab that share of that market. And finally, compliance. And within compliance, it covers all the areas such as health, safety, and environmental challenges, which is something that the global repairer community faces, and it's making sure our repairers are fit, able, and proper to repair vehicles in a safe manner. And from that, we also get involved in waste management, either from subcontract services or from using our own delivery logistics operations to pull product back and to, wherever possible, ensure it's recycled. We all have a corporate responsibility to recycle as much as possible. We take that very, very seriously, and we only work with people who do focus their efforts on recycling product. And finally, vehicle manufacturer and insurer work provider accident management company standards. It's about us helping to assist our customers to pass these increasingly strenuous audits, often which are in some cases duplicated from other manufacturers across brand. But it's making sure that they are in a position to be able to secure the standards that allow them to receive work in many cases and maintain themselves in terms of a profitable future. So that typically is a model that we would expect to introduce to our body repair customers. Now, I know the model is different across the globe, but simply put, if you're not getting those services from your distributor, then you need to have a serious think about the people you're doing business with, because that's what's available and out there for you. The second area I wanted to talk to you about was the future marketing model. And for us, this has a basic principle of Battenberg. Now, anybody who's any sort of age at all will remember a cake that was called the Battenberg cake. No cherry on the top, just a nice little simple square with 4 little squares inserted within inside it. And as this model evolves, you'll see how it's become called the Battenberg. First off, this is about us, and this is what 90% of us do, is selling existing products to existing customers. This is our bread and butter, our day-to-day business activities. The existing products we stock, the existing customers we have. Now, when you've had a repairer community that's dropped from 12,000 to 3,000, it doesn't take a rocket scientist to work out that's not a sustainable model. So what we've endeavoured to do, certainly within my business, is to look at broadening the reach and approach we have in terms of products and in terms of customers. As little as 2008, only 4 or 5 years ago, 99% of our revenue was generated from one income stream. I'm personally delighted to say that in 4 to 5 years' time, we now have 20% of our revenue generated from other income streams outside of that one. So, and at the same time, we've actually managed to double the business as well. The important thing about that is that just because you're growing doesn't mean you can't look at other areas. And I think David said yesterday, the time to start looking for opportunities is not actually when you're quiet, but it's actually when you're busy. And we've been very busy over the last 5 years, but that hasn't stopped us looking outside of our existing model. The second area is taking existing products to new customers. Now, within that, and we recognise products that we already stock on the shelf, and what opportunity we have to sell that to new customers. Now, I've already quoted and said to you that we have 3,000 body repairers in the UK. There's statistics I read last week that told us there was as many as 8,000 mobile operators in the UK. It's the highest number I'd ever seen, worrying that it's twice the size of the body shop market that we're available to supply to. So we've been addressing this for the last 3 or 4 years and looking at providing products we have on the shelf into that mobile market. It's a good example of how we've changed our business model to cater for that growing market opportunity. The third area is taking new products to existing customers. And from that perspective, What we've identified here is by attending trade shows, increasing the reach and penetration of our staff to look across the globe to see what methods, products, process, tools, equipment is being used in other areas, bringing them to the UK and marketing them to the UK body repair community. And this has been a tough task because ultimately products that work in certain other industries and certain other countries won't necessarily transport across to the UK. But we've endeavoured wherever possible to provide a solution, and this is a key target for my marketing team to ensure that we are constantly seeking new products, new relationships, new approvals for the UK to supply to our existing client base. And the final one, and this is ultimately the most challenging, is to take new products to new customers. And an example of that where we've actually strived to achieve this is in the area of operating into the industrial coating sector. And typically what we've done is we've gone to our key suppliers currently, find out what other products they manufacture, other products that we can take advantage of in other repair communities. It could be industrial in this case, it could be marine. There's coating solutions that we're now putting in place. We use the infrastructure that we already have in place with the JCA branch network, but then we use specialist sales and technical resource to actually go and seek those new opportunities in fresh markets. And then that starts the whole cycle going again, because the new products to the new customers, that moves back to the top left-hand box again and starts again to be existing products to existing customers. And then the whole thing evolves. So that's the Battenberg. The final area I wanted to cover off was what kind of message I would give to distributors going forward. And it's something that David and I had certainly touched on when we were sort of preparing for this slideshow, was that there was a need for us as distributors to upsell our business to our supplier partners. What do I mean by this? Well, we've been very good as distributors over the years at marketing ourselves to body repairers, but what we haven't been very good at is making ourselves look attractive to our supplier partners. And how does that look? That could basically mean anything from a business plan. It can understand what their needs, what their objectives, what their goals are. And through a common understanding and a common approach, it's far easier for us to be able to achieve their goals and objectives as well. And I often talk about upselling in the physical sense in terms of supply chain from distributor into supplier. It's something I would recommend that all distributors look at, because as the market rationalises and there's more closures and it continues at the pace it is, ultimately there'll be casualties within distribution, and suppliers will be choosing their distributor partners going forward. Therefore, if you haven't made yourself attractive as a business, why would they choose you as a partner? That just accelerates your own demise. So it's absolutely essential that you conduct yourself in a manner that says it's not like some kind of Punch and Judy kind of theatre show. It's about making sure that your business is fit, able, and ready to take on the challenges of the marketplace and distributing that supplier's products. And the other thing is providing complementing and not competing services. And again, part of the problem we have, and we've seen a massive reduction, there's probably more than 50% of supplier staff have left the industry in the last 5 to 6 years, and more of the onus has fallen onto the distributors. But that doesn't mean that this isn't a joint customer, because ultimately we are providing their products to a customer end user, in this case a body shop. So it's absolutely vital, where margins are tight, to make sure that we have services that complement what that supplier offers and provides a joined-up, cohesive approach to the solution of supplying product to the body shop community. From a supplier's perspective, the area I'm going to look at is protecting against oversupply, declining market, declining body repair community. But simply put, what we've got to recognise is that oversupply ultimately only drives down one thing, and that's typically margin. And that puts more upward pressure into the chain as well as downward pressure. So from our perspective, what we're trying to do is make sure that our supply partners recognise the need to work with us by not oversupplying the community, distributor community in this respect, and making sure that we have a chance to protect our margin and grow and offer some of the services I covered off earlier. And finally, it's the most important thing for these guys is to recognise whereby to develop new products to reduce cost and increase efficiency. Everything is driven now, reducing repair cost, increasing efficiency, driving down those key-to-key times and cycle times, all of which improve customer satisfaction. And customer satisfaction, in this case, being the vehicle driver. That's something that everybody's striving to achieve. So it's absolutely essential that the suppliers recognise what the changing needs of the marketplace are now, and putting products in place that allow them to adapt and change for the market going forward. And from my respect, this is an often banded word, it's partnership. The partnership within that is to make sure that we are consistent in delivering a harmonious approach for innovative solutions that meet today's needs as well as tomorrow's needs, to provide a stakeholder opportunity where we can all deliver value from that chain. Because it is there to be had. And if it isn't, then people may as well go to Amazon and buy the product from there. We believe there's a role for a distributor to play in the market going forward, as well as a supplier. So thank you for listening to me this morning, and I'd like to hand back over to David.
Can you hear me? Yeah. I'm now going to start a debate. I'd like to invite three suppliers up here to the stage. Nina Nyman, Frank Borgman and René Lang. Right. Nina.
Morning, David.
Morning. Nina, can you just tell the audience who you are?
Yes. I'm Nina Nyman. I work for Merca. I'm the Global Marketing Manager there. I look after a lot of business development. I work a lot with our subsidiaries, our 17 subsidiaries worldwide, and I work also a lot with the distributors. I try to make sure we get the right product mix into our R&D department so that we can produce the right product and the right product mix.
All right, thank you. Frank.
Good morning, David.
Morning. Who are you?
My name is Frank Borgman. I'm with Henkel in Germany. My responsibility is the vehicle repair and maintenance market in Europe. We sell adhesive and sealant products into that market, mainly the brands Loctite, Therozone and Plastic Padding, which you probably all know. So we are part of the repair chain for the automotive aftermarket.
Thank you. René.
My name is René Lang. I work with BASF Coatings in Münster, and our team has the responsibility to shape the distributor landscape in Europe and most of the Middle East countries. And I think one thing has already been touched by Richard before, so my job is to make sure that we have complementary and not competing services in the different countries.
Now, Nina, just a simple yes or no. Does your company supply Richard?
Yes.
Frank?
Yes.
René?
Yes.
Now, you probably think this is a setup, right? But I can actually assure you that actually they were chosen sort of at random as three companies of the many other companies that are there as a cross-section of suppliers, and they just happened to... in fact, it's fair to say that I got the agreement particularly from Nina and Frank before I even got the agreement from Richard. It took me months to persuade him to come up on stage, and he did a great job.
I'm still regretting it, David.
Do you remember yesterday, Tony Aquila talked about generalising your business or specialising your business? Frank, do you want your distributors to be generalists or specialists?
Not so very easy to answer. So we definitely need specialists because also the market is developing in a way that we need specialized products for specialized tasks and also specialized distributors who are able to sell these products. So that is really what Richard already said in one of his slides, that the technical aspect becomes more vital to the business. On the other hand, we are also supplying products in the wholesale area where the end user buys the products directly. It's not necessarily the same product range that we would sell through a specialist. So the answer is we need both.
All right. René, can I just ask you this? You talked about complementing and not competing. One of the areas of potential confusion is who provides the technical leadership of your products. You make them. That's your core business, manufacturing those products. But Richard was talking a lot about the technical support side. So isn't that an area where there's a potential competition going on from a customer viewpoint? Where they're getting that technical leadership from?
I think this depends on the, let's say, mature market of the distribution. The more mature the market of distribution is, the better the distributors are able to provide these services. So what we do, we have to make sure that our distributors are in a position to provide exactly this technical background we need to secure at the body shop level. If we see in some countries the distributors are not able to do that, it's not as good as it is in the UK with Richard's company, we have to make sure that we do that. So we help in the countries where the distributor is not able to do it on their own, we do it. And in countries where the distributors can do it, we make sure that they are trained in the way that they really assure at the body shop level that the service quality and the security of supply is done exactly like we want to do that. So we rely on them if it's possible. If it's not possible, we do it on our own. So it's not really competing, and most of the time the end customer knows very well who he should contact to if he has technical questions. So we can make sure that they understand where to go to. But it's better to contact two and have the right answer than to contact none and do the wrong process approach.
Right. Now, we've had lots of debates about who owns the customer, particularly in the relationship between insurer and repairer. And we've actually had debates some years ago, actually in this room, on a session called Who Owns the Customer? Now, you could argue the same could apply in between distributors and suppliers. Who owns the customer? Now, Nina, what's your view on this, about who owns the customer?
I think we have really, in the past few years, we really started talking, I mean, of course, we talk a lot about our end customers, meaning the repair workers in the body shops and their needs and how they need to have easy processes and quicker solutions. But more and more, we start to realize that our customers are the distributors, and we also need to take them into consideration when we launch products, when we take new things out to the marketplace, because our route to market is through distribution. So unless they understand our products, unless they understand the concept, it's not going to be possible, because we can't be in 80 countries all over selling to all small body shops worldwide. We need distributors. We need people like Richard.
So, Richard, where do you see this? Because you mentioned that man and boy, you'd worked in this industry, and I'd like to take you back 20 years ago when you were working for, as you described it, a global paint company. You probably had a different view as a supplier.
Yeah, I did actually, in fairness. When I left that global paint company to move into distribution, the kind of image I created was of their view was that they sat at the top of the tree here and distribution sat here. And my objective at that stage was to invert that model so that the distributor became the main point of contact for the body repair customer, and the manufacturer here. And what we've seen in the UK over the years is, as I mentioned earlier, probably 50 to 60% of the staff at supplier level have left the market for a variety of reasons, normally price pressures and margin pressures and so on, delivered that. So from my perspective, I'm not particularly precious about who owns the customer. I just want to make sure that we work with partners who support us to allow us to deliver a cohesive approach to the supply of paint, consumables and equipment to our joint customers.
All right. Now, how many paint companies do you sell now?
Brands, I stock 13 different paint brands.
Sorry?
I stock 13 paint brands. That's 13, not 30.
Right, okay.
Pause for silence.
René, I have to refer this to you. I'd also like to refer to you because you come at this industry relatively fresh, don't you?
Yeah.
You've been in the collision repair industry for how long?
1 year now.
1 year, okay. So you're still the new boy.
I am.
Good. You cover in your area a wide number of countries with different distribution policies.
Yep.
You have an extreme here with Richard, with 13 paint companies. Yet you have other countries where you deal with distribution partners who have just your paint.
Yes.
That's the opposite alternatives, yes?
Absolutely.
Right. How do you manage that is the first question. And while you're thinking about that question, here's the second question. Which is the best model for you?
Let me start with the second question.
Oh.
The better model is if a distributor just has one paint brand. Why? Because this distributor is really focused on our brand. Hopefully it is our brand. And we really can make sure that in every angle we want to act him in the end market, we can influence, train, support and help him to really sell the paint as we think it should be sold in the end market. In the end, he will save a lot of money with logistics, because I can imagine storing 13 brands is not a very easy thing to do and not a very cheap thing to do. And as well, I think having specialists for technical work, as you said, you need to have. For 13 brands is not so easy. So if you go to an end customer and now he has to talk about brand number 3 and then 5 minutes later about brand number 7, are we really sure that this guy can handle all these 13 brands and their different approaches into the market? I'm not really sure. So what we think, it's better the less brands they have. And in many, many countries, we have distributors only having one brand. So this is the ideal model from our point of view. How do we handle situations like that? We try to make sure that the people of Richard are really trained more than probably needed and more than we think that it should be, so that in any case, if there comes a question to our paint brand, they are able to answer the question in the right way. So for us, this is more work with, I would say, diluted approach to the market, because we know they also sell other paint brands, and still we have to put the same effort into your company than in a company that only would sell our brand.
Okay, so what you're saying is, as long as you're able to motivate the distributor and their staff to really understand your product, to be very comfortable with it, that should encourage them to, let's say, lead with your product.
Yes.
Or prefer your product. So then it makes it almost academic that he has another 12 brands.
Yes, it should be. This is the optimum situation if he's forced to have another 12 brands. Yes.
Right. Do you remember the first question?
Yeah. How we handle that?
Yeah, how do you handle the different models?
Exactly as I told you. We invest as much into every different model that we have as is needed to have our brand always represented in the right way. So in the case of Richard, we have to invest more than in the case of a company that just owns one paint brand. But we are prepared to do that because we see the result, which is very good, how Richard and his company is handling that. For us, it is always important that in the end, the customer which owns the car, which brings it to the body shop, that this customer gets the best result. So he should have a good repair, the quality should be good, the insurance company should be happy, and the body shop should not be, let's say, having complaint because the customer comes back because something went wrong, because the coating material was applied in the wrong way. So we have to make sure that all of our partners are able to apply our technology in the right way so that the end customer is a happy customer.
Right. Frank, in a distributor's life, there is a league table of important products. It's fair to say that in a paint distributor's case, the paint will be number 1. And in most cases, the number 2 product will be the abrasives suppliers. So that must make you number 3. Yeah, in terms, I mean, you've got some strong brands, but in terms of the volume or the turnover percentage of their business, you're further down. How does that affect your decision about your distribution policy for the future?
Well, first of all, we try to increase this number of products that we can sell into that market, and I think the technology change helps us, so you will find more and more materials on a car where you need to have adhesives or sealants to bond them, to seal them, and to protect them, and that's exactly our market. So we are developing new products, and if I refer to the business model that Richard showed, so we are trying to sell additional products of our wide range of products into that market. So that could be cleaners, for instance. We also produce a lot of cleaners that would also fit into that area. We have a couple of primers that we sell into that market. So we are widening our range to get on a higher stage of the importance of a distributor.
So with Richard's Battenberg principle, you're basically saying, I'm going to increase my importance by adopting the top right-hand corner, I think it was, Richard, which is new products to existing customers.
Exactly. Yeah, not only to existing customers, also to new customers.
Right.
So if we refer to the business that Richard described, also going into the industrial coating, also in that area we have a lot of products that would fit into that business, so we could widen our product range to be sold into the specific distributor.
Right. Sorry, Richard, I want to come back to you. You say you've got 13 paint brands, but in total, how many suppliers do you have?
Probably about 300.
Bearing in mind what you said about building partnership, how do you build partnership with 300 suppliers?
Well, you don't, in simple terms. I mean, that's not a practical end game for us. One point I would make, actually, interestingly, about the paint brands is that as little as 9 years ago, we only had 2 brands on the shelf, and one of them was a BSF product and one was a PPG product. So that's the indication of how much our market has evolved in such a really short period of time. And the reason why we've gone down that route and that approach is because we're an incredibly approval-driven market with a number of different factors influencing why people should stock certain products. And we have some body shops, not even that big, who have as many as 5 different paint mixing schemes, which is absolutely ridiculous. How you can expect a paint shop operative to be fully trained and skilled in the use of 5 different products is beyond me, outside of the obvious investment and cost to put mixing schemes in, the training and support required from there, and the additional administration and meetings and so on that go on purely around supplying that. But from a supplier perspective, we target, someone once said to me, a wise old sage, Mr. Peter Stott, said to me, we aim to support the supporters. And I took that on board many, many years ago. And what we try to deliver, as we've grown our business over the years, is profitable growth for our supplier partners. And we recognise that they need to make money to reinvest in the products that I talked about earlier, to reduce cost, increase efficiency, and so on. And sometimes the cost can be increased, but if the efficiency benefits and the labour outweigh that, you can justify a higher price for that product in the market. So we need them to be able to make money, but also they need us to be able to make money as well, because we're a key part of that value chain. And the simple fact is that when you're a middleman, which effectively from a distribution perspective we're going to get squeezed all the time. So my key objective is to make sure we engage with those partners, we understand what their needs are, what their goals, what their aspirations are, we recognise that, and then I fire the team up to go out and deliver those wherever possible.
So whatever happened to the model, I mean, I think Paul Gannage mentioned it yesterday, about leveraging your supplier relationships. We have a situation, don't we, and I'm sure all of you have been faced with this, of buying groups, let's say. People coming together to see if they can increase their purchasing capabilities to get the price down. So isn't that what your role is?
We're not members of buying groups. We basically individually negotiate our position on products and take that relationship very, very seriously. So our focus is about JCA and the relationship we have with our suppliers. And the simple fact is, of the 300, and in the time that I've been there, not one single supplier has ever said to us they don't want us to supply their products anymore. So to some degrees, the evidence is there. In a declining market, reducing market, no one has ever come to us and said, we don't want you to stock our products anymore. That's the evidence for me.
Support the supporters, Nina. You understand what that means?
Yeah.
Yeah? Actually, Richard, just make sure everybody in the audience just understands that. I know Peter happens to be in the audience, but what's your definition of support the supporters?
In simple terms, I mean, the words to some degree say it all for me. Basically, it's about us getting alongside and working closer together with our suppliers to make sure that we provide a service, product, tool, equipment, whatever it is that they're servicing or supplying to us, onto the end-user body repair customer that allows them to meet the changing needs of their marketplace. And that could be from the vehicle owner, the manufacturer, the insurer, whoever their customer is deemed to be in that instance. So we work together with people who want to support us in growing and us achieving our goals and aspirations as well.
Right, but that works the other way, Nina, doesn't it?
It does.
Support the supporters.
Yeah.
What makes for you a good distributor partner?
A good distributor partner is someone who is willing to who's willing to train their staff, who's willing to be out in the marketplace and to basically sell our products. That is a good distributor for us. Someone who is innovative, someone who we can trust, someone who is not only moving boxes, because as Richard said, if distribution is about moving boxes, distribution is not really needed as we know distribution. Then we can go to Amazon and we could just sell everything through the internet. But because a good distributor is a lot more like they can add a lot of value through training, through being out in the marketplace, through being a lot closer to the market than we can be. I mean, of course, we have our own sales network as well, but we can never penetrate the market 100%. So we need distributors also penetrating the marketplace, selling our products.
I sense a shift here. As I think I've mentioned to you, and some people in the room know this, that I used to work for a paint company and I worked in distribution, so I've seen both sides of this. And 24 years ago, when I came into the industry and met all the distribution, I basically spent the first 4 or 5 months getting hit around the head and being told what was wrong with my company and we just don't make enough margin. Now, from a supplier's point of view, how are you likely to react to that, Frank?
Well, I think we already touched a lot of points of what is the value of a distributor and how does it work together with the supplier. And I like the chart that Richard showed before, where you had technical, where you had the service and the different elements. So I think logistics is a given thing. What we need is strong salespeople within distributors that are able to sell the value of the product into that market. So I think if the end customer, if the workshop understands what is the value of a certain product and how can he be more efficient in using a product where he can save time, then the price of the product itself is not so relevant, but the benefit of the entire process that he is using to repair the car is his benefit. And I think here we can really make sure that the entire value chain earns enough money with the products.
There's an analogy here, René, isn't there? Because we talk a lot, again, about repairers. Now, what we're saying here, Nina touched on this, it's not enough just to move boxes.
Yep.
So the repairer, it's not enough just to repair cars. Yeah? What we're saying here is that distributors have to add value to survive and to be attractive to the suppliers. So in repairer terms, it's to be innovative and provide added value services and other services to become more attractive to their partners, the insurers or the consumers. There's a distinct parallel there, isn't there?
Yep.
What motivates you as a supplier from a distributor? We talked a lot about having sales force and everything else, but let's talk about attitude and mentality, business mentality. What impact does that have on you as a supplier?
I think business mentality is crucial. I mean, if we realize that our distributors are not able to follow or not willing to follow our mentality, how we want to place our product in the market, we cannot go on working with them. So in principle, we have in many countries, let's say, the problem to find the right distributors that are willing and able to follow our strategies. And in mature market, this is quite easy because the distributors are mature as well. They are very well trained. They are, let's say, really with high process knowledge. You can easily handle that they have the same appearance to the market and the same approach to the market than we think they should be. But in many developing markets, really distributors see themselves as a kind of box-kicking or simply logistics providers. So in this case, we have to train them that they get the feeling how to sell such a product, and this is not easy. So we are really running day by day through our distributor landscape, looking how have they evolved. Do we really go on working with them? Do we find others in different regions? And our, let's say, big aim would be finding really professional companies also being able selling over, let's say, regional or countrywide distribution channels, because at the moment our distribution landscape is still quite local. So in every country we have people serving between, 50 to 200 kilometers in diameter as an average size of the distributor. And sometimes you would really like having a distributor being able covering 2, 3, 4, 5 countries with a professional approach, with cheap processes in place, so that we as a supplier are not forced to clean up the process work of the distributor.
I'm going to give you, just to wrap this up, I'm going to give you a scenario where I see it as joined up thinking in this industry. In my experience, insurers like innovation from their body shops. They prefer to work with people who come up with new ideas. Is that fair? Yeah. I had a case that was brought to my attention recently of a repairer network who had a great relationship with a supplier. And this supplier had a new product that reduced or contributed to reducing cycle time within the body shop. It was agreed that a trial would be done to see if the claims were achieved. The body shop network, on his next meeting with the insurer, said, oh, by the way, I'm having a conversation with my supplier, and what they've come up with is a potential idea of reducing cycle time. I'm going to keep you informed about how that's progressing. And the insurer said, oh, really? Okay, please keep me informed. They did the trial, and they proved the case that it would indeed, using this particular product in a particular way, would reduce cycle time. The repairer went back to the insurer and said, what we're doing is we've done the trial and we found out that we can reduce the cycle time on these types of repair jobs by X%. And the insurer says, great, that's superb, let's measure it. The outcome of this is that it was proven, the cycle time was reduced, it had an impact on the customer satisfaction index, so the insurer was happy, the repairer was happy because the insurer was happy because that meant probably he'd get more work or certainly continuing work. The supplier was happy because they were able to lock themselves into the business. And for me, that comes out of what I would call selling to your supplier. Not selling to your customer, selling to your supplier. Motivating them, that the supplier was motivated enough to say, I want to pick that repairer. So there may be 10 other repairers that this supplier supplies, but he didn't feel he had the sufficient relationship or the motivation to go to that. Isn't that what we're talking about? Isn't that the whole business in the value chain?
Absolutely.
Richard?
Absolutely. And it's a great example of where people working together can actually deliver value all the way up to the vehicle driver.
I think the summary really is, isn't it, that, René, you talked about the mentality. Frank, you talked about the expansion of products to make a bigger impact on the business. Nina, you were talking about the importance of focusing on distribution and their ability to sell your products. And that means that Richard looks at his 300 suppliers and says, well, there's a few suppliers in there that actually I would prefer to work with because I know they will support me and I will support them. Is that a fair point? So for the whole supply chain, could you each sort of make an observation of what needs to be done for the future to ensure that in the whole value supply chain that it works for all partners? Nina, can you just give a...
I think one thing that is really important is the sustainability of the business. There needs to be enough for everyone in the value chain to make their ends meet. We need to get enough so that we can continue developing products, so that we can continue to do what we are supposed to be doing. Richard and distribution, they need to get enough so that they can be innovative and be out there active on the marketplace. And then the body shops, they need to get enough hourly paid by the insurers so that they can operate. I think we need to realize that it's a whole value chain, and everyone needs to get their share of the profit so that people can survive and do profitable business.
Thank you. Frank?
I think the big advantage of a distributor is that he can sell the entire product range into the body shop. So he can start with adhesives, he can sell abrasives, he can sell the tools, he can sell the paint. So he understands the entire process, and with understanding this entire process, especially for future development, new products, new materials that are used on a car, he can really sell this innovation into the body shop, and I think that's the big advantage of a distributor. And we as a supplier can support him with the specialized products that we have and with the specialized training. But I think your really advantage is that you have this entire range of products that you can fit into that market.
Thank you. René?
Your example was very interesting because it showed two or three things that were really relevant in this chain. It was trust, it was openness, and it was honest communication. And I think if we all stick to these rules, from body shop to paint supplier, then this will work. The problem is always, if some of these are missing in the chain, we will not be successful. If we all use and apply them, we will be successful, no matter which product we have in the range.
Everything you said talks about all the other relationships within the collision repair industry.
Yes.
You had the first word. You can have the last word, Richard.
Okay. Simply put, I think it does actually encapsulate really what was my distinguished colleagues have already addressed, really, and from my own desire is to stop the closures at the rate they are running at. 75% attrition rate over 15 years. You know, I recognise it's about supply and demand as far as that's concerned, but all the stakeholders in the industry have a responsibility to ensure that the other person within that chain is allowed to make an economic return at an acceptable level that allows them to reinvest in equipment and training and processes to ensure that they are able to repair the cars of today, but also the cars of tomorrow. And one thing's for sure, the sophistication of the cars will only continue to increase, and therefore it's absolutely essential that we allow enough food on the table for the repairers in particular to be allowed to do their jobs to the best of their ability by training and supporting their staff as well.
Well, somebody said to me, so here's a challenge for you. Try and get Richard Steer and all his customers into this room after a long night at 9 o'clock in the morning. So I said, well, the best thing to do is have that session on first. That's why you've got this session, Richard. No other reason, okay? But I think we've had a true insight into the particular relationship between distributors and suppliers. But the example I tried to illustrate here is how it actually applies and how the impact it can have on the whole industry. So we can learn from that. Sell to your suppliers, do everything that René said, and you can build a business for the future. Please give these guys a round of applause.